collectively get our heart's desires, and then we vote in the proper leader we need to take us through the next 4 years. And this is a special shout out to all Nigerian businesses. Continue to appreciate your talent and make them feel wanted and loved.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Brilliant way to start off the year. And this is officially the first Freshly Pressed for 2023. Very excited about it. All right, as always, we'd love you to be a part of the conversation. Let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. And of course, you can also tweet at smooth981. All right, Mr. C, can we dive straight in?
Sure.
Okay, so this one is from Punch. Obasanjo writes letter to Nigerians, endorses Peter Obi. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo on Sunday wrote a letter to Nigerians asking them to elect the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, ahead of the February election. Now, Obasanjo made this known in a New Year message titled, "My appeal to all Nigerians, particularly young Nigerians." Now, very interesting, he did state that none of the presidential candidates is a saint, but when compared to the knowledge, discipline, and what it is that they have to offer, Mr. Obi has an edge. What do you think of this?
Okay, so as we all know, President Obasanjo is a revered statesman. He's been there at the helm of affairs in this country, both as a military officer and as a civilian, and he's had the benefit of dispassionately looking at the state of affairs, the state of the nation, and
Mm,
he's come to the conclusion, having interacted in some form or manner with at least the majority of the presidential hopefuls, that in his personal opinion, that Mr. Peter Obi is the best placed to take the nation forward, and he's enjoining Nigerians to lean on his recommendation as a father figure who still wants the best for the next generation, for his children, in quotes.
mm,
Now, he did point out certain things, that he's there's little or no controversy around him, and that he's young enough compared to some of the other presidential hopefuls. He's in his 60s. Now, the question some people would say is, okay, is that you shouldn't be the one to recommend anyone to us because you're part of the reason, allegedly, why the nation is where it is today. Now, nobody knows it all, nobody has it all. He's done his 8 years, and history and posterity will be the judge on whether he did in fact take Nigeria forward in any formal manner.
mm,
But he's also had the benefit of time to look back on what he's done, seeing the mistakes, and then also try to correct, because he's also interested in what I'll describe as legacy. So he won't be seen to be supporting someone he does not believe will take the country forward. Now, he did concede that all of them have the ability to contribute in one form or the other to the nation in the next 4 years, but that he believes Mr. Peter Obi is the best. And this is formal confirmation of what some of us had already known, that he was leaning in the direction of the Labour Party candidate.
mm.
Now, Nigerians, that is the opinion of a former president. We are not bound to accept it, but at the very least, we might as well think about it, we might as well consider it, and then on election day, if it's only one round, make an informed choice. If it's two rounds, make informed choices. And it speaks to the type of campaign he's run, because each time he's been beset with any issue, any seeming issue or controversy,
Mm.
he's quick to address it headlong. He's quick to address it. At least he will provide some context to what is being disputed, what is being stated. And whether or not you agree, that's a completely different conversation. But when you compare that to some of the other candidates who've also been bedeviled with certain controversies, and they're seeming reluctant to address those issues directly, will rather come through aides and friends and supporters, but they never seemingly address the issues at hand. And as a nation, we cannot afford to get the next 4 years wrong. The last 7.5 years, everyone can personally testify in one form or the other as to how amazing, in quotes, the period has been.
Would you say everyone? Some people would have a different experience from others.
No, no, everyone. So everyone will have a testimony, good, positive,
Mm,
neutral, or bad.
right.
So there's no one. The only people who won't have a testimony are the people who've passed on. Everyone who's alive
Mm,
and who's capable of forming some measure of thoughts or opinions will have an opinion.
mm.
Now, we've seen a steady depreciation in exchange rate. We've seen an astronomical rise in the price of goods and services, foodstuffs, travel. It's just, it's, it's just inexplicable.
All right. So I want to ask this. The former president Obasanjo in the past has thrown his weight behind uh, some other candidates, in fact, one who is the president now. And what does that say, though?
Okay, so what it says to me is one, he's not afraid to publicly make his position known, but he's also not afraid, and this is very important, to acknowledge that he gets it wrong sometimes, that he's human.
Mm,
So he's admitted that, look, I backed this guy in 2015. Well, the last 7.5 years have not been what we expected, have not been what we dreamed for, and have not been what we wanted. And to avoid a further repeat of the last 7.5 years, we need to get, in his opinion, the Labour Party candidate into office.
all right. And I see your messages coming through. You can keep them coming. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. And of course, you could tweet at smooth981. The hashtag is freshly pressed 981. And moving on to this day, Lawan, Buhari to sign 2023 budget next Tuesday. The Senate President, Dr. Ahmed Lawan, yesterday disclosed that President Muhammadu Buhari will sign the 2023 appropriation bill next Tuesday. Dropping the hint after meeting with the president at the State House in Abuja, Lawan said the issue of the president's recent additional loan request, the 2023 appropriation bill, as well as legislature support to the Independent National Electoral Commission ahead of the general elections were being discussed at the meeting. And in this article, it also goes on to a point where the Senate president says the INEC lacks nothing and assures that the National Assembly will support it to deliver credible elections.
Okay, so very, very quickly, there isn't a lot of detail to this story, a lot of meat. So there was a meeting between the Senate president and the president last week, and according to the Senate president, the appropriation bill will be signed tomorrow and it will become the 2023 budget. He then goes on to say they discussed the president's loan request, and he doesn't tell us the outcome of that conversation. And then he says something very interesting. INEC lacks nothing. With all due respect to the Senate president, you are not the chairman of the INEC. So you cannot state categorically that they do not lack anything, because it will not be surprising if later this week the INEC chairman comes out and says we need A to E or A to Z.
Mm.
So what he should say is, to the best of his knowledge, he is not aware INEC requires anything that has not been provided for. But we also note the pledge or the undertaking to continue to support INEC, and we're truly hoping that the elections this year will not only be free and fair, that there will be no disenfranchisement of eligible voters, and there will be no violence on election days.
Yes, indeed. All right, going to Punch. Presidential committees gulp 14.97 billion naira in 5 years. The president had inaugurated at least 10 committees and councils in 2022 to drive various agendas of the government. Now, the committees encompass sectors including education, health, security, digital economy, and the civil service. Now, further analysis revealed that the total running cost of key presidential committees since 2018 amounted to 14.97 billion. And coming to the budget proposal, for 2023. The amount that is earmarked for this is 3.73 billion naira.
Okay, so Zibby, I've read the story and I'm a bit confused as to what this government is actually trying to do. Now, presidential committees in themselves are not a bad idea. But the way they've been used as some sort of ministry, some sort of department, or some sort of agency. So you have different presidential committees carrying out the work that should actually be done by existing ministries or departments or even agencies. And then you hear the costs of running to billions of naira. And then you have the existing structures and the workers are getting paid. So if the presidential committees are coming up with the work, what are the existing guys actually doing and why are we paying them? Now, this results to going to presidential committees every time. I'm not sure it's the best for the country long term, given our current financial situation. Now, when you look at the membership of some of these committees, they include serving governors, include serving ministers. So, and then members of the private business community. Now, should this not be an ad hoc arrangement? But the way it's looking, it's like it's now a semi-permanent arrangement. And then you have the Orosai report, which says we have too many ministries, too many departments, too many agencies, and it recommended a streamlining of these three apparatus of government. Now you then have presidential committees, and with each new act that is being passed by the National Assembly, there's a body being set up. So we really need to go back to that Oronsai report. We need to harmonize what we're doing in the public service. We cannot have duplication of efforts. We cannot have duplication of costs. And we certainly cannot have increased costs, recurrent costs at this critical point in time.
All right, you're listening to Freshly Pressed right here on Smooth 98.1. We'll take a quick break and we'll continue the conversation on the other side. I know, right? Like, why do you have those things? They already existed, so you're just spending so much money on doing what people should be doing already. Crazy. Okay, so petrol is next. Okay, go first. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. It's Zibby here and Mr. C. We're taking a look at the stories on the pages of the newspapers. As always, we'd love for you to be in touch with us. Let us know what your thoughts are. 0809 440 That is the WhatsApp number. And you could also tweet at Smooth981. And don't forget to use the hashtag It's Freshly Pressed 981. So, Mr. C, we're coming on to this day. Regulator vows to sanction petrol marketers breaching official prices. Now, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Authority yesterday vowed to revoke the licenses of petrol marketers selling above the controlled prices, as well as those who've been accused of hoarding the product in their depots. Now, speaking in Abuja, the chief executive, Mr. Farouk Ahmed, explained that in the last few days, several depots had been shut down for selling above the regulated prices. He also reiterated that as of yesterday, the nation still had at least a 30-day sufficiency, explaining, however, that the global crisis caused by the Russian and Ukrainian war, in addition, of course, to the fluctuation in the value of the naira, had affected the even distribution of petroleum products.
Okay, so this is very interesting and It's literally a situation of the more you look, the less you see, and the less you even understand. Now, the NNPC for a very long time has largely been a sole importer of petrol into the
Mm.
country. Once in a while, you have one or two other bodies bringing in small and some smaller amounts of petrol. Now, there's an next depot. So when the petrol comes, there's a landing cost and all of the charges, all of the costs that are tacked on, and then that becomes the ex depot price. Now, the ex depot price is the price at which the NNPC or the depot owners sell to the marketers, and then the marketers then tack on their margin of 4 to 5 naira, and petrol should be sold between 116, 169, and 175, depending on where you buy from. Now, what we've seen or what we've witnessed in the past 3 to 4 weeks is that some stations are going as high as 240, 250, even
Mm.
in the center of Lagos, even in places like Lekki. Now, the Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority is now vying to revoke the licenses. Now, why do you need to make a public pronouncement if you know what you're empowered to do under the law? Why are you telling us just do your job? Now, it's it's incredulous that marketers who don't import petrol and receive it only at the ex depot price are talking to us about forex fluctuations. They're talking to us about rising cost of diesel. Now, if it's rising cost of diesel because the diesel powers the trucks that take the petrol interstate to
Mm.
all the various locations, the president, we understand, has agreed a further 10 naira increase in the money being given to them.
Right.
But this begs the bigger question, the big elephant in the room, the question that is almost eternally never answered. What is happening to our pipelines? Because the way it was set up in the 70s, trucking was supposed to be an alternative, not the main route. So we have pipelines all over the country.
Mm.
If we were moving the petrol or the crudes through the pipelines, why has that stopped? What effort is being made to resolve that? Okay, well, how about trains? Do we have more train routes where we can move the petrol and remove the safety hazards and the traffic that that is being caused by the tankers? So until we sit down and have true and honest conversations with ourselves, we'll continue to read stories like this where you have marketers who are doing the wrong thing, and then you have a regulator that is seemingly reluctant to do what is required to get them in line. Yes, they claim they've shut down a couple of depots, but it will soon be business as usual. They shut it down for a day or two, maybe a week, and then they resume. What lessons have been learned? We don't know.
Mm. All right. We see your messages coming through and we'll get to them shortly. But let's go on to Punch. Lagos Security Outfit seeks financial aid. The Joint Security Task Force, the Lagos Mainland Local Command, has appealed to the state governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu for financial and moral support to keep its operations going. Now, the chairman of the outfit disclosed this in a letter which is addressed to the state governor, and he stated that there were suspicions of attacks from hoodlums in the area, stating or adding that financial aid would be an incentive to members of the security outfits.
Okay. Very interesting request from a very interesting group. Now, reading this story, I can't just help but wonder, is this an indictment of the Nigerian police force? Because if you've received reports suggesting
Mm.
that hoodlums would try to take advantage of people in Lagos mainland local government and try to institute a reign of terror and violence, have you brought this to the attention of the Nigerian police force? What are they doing? Now, they say it's a gathering of community based security organizations. Now, do they have the legal backing to carry arms? So, what are we giving you money for? I think that's the first step. What are we giving you money for? Who exactly are you guys? Because I never knew you existed, and shows that there's some Lagosians who would also say the same thing.
Mm.
Now, you want the governor to give you money. Is it captured in the budget for Lagos State for 2023? If it's not captured, where exactly is this money supposed to be made from? What are your processes? Are you transparent enough? Do you render accounts? And then what exactly do you guys do? Do you provide intelligence and give it to the police?
Mm.
Do you maintain security? If you do maintain security, how do you do it if you don't carry arms? So how are you maintaining the security? So I just hear a request for free money, and this free money is supposed to come from the taxes paid by residents who live in Lagos. And then they say moral support. Okay, fine, moral support. But what are we supporting? Again, what are we supporting financially or morally? I would have thought that there would have been more detail as to what they're doing, what they have done, and what they can continue to offer.
Right.
But the big request, the big ask was just give us the money.
Some money.
Yes.
Some people have called for perhaps community policing like this, vigilantes, because they are some sort of first line of communication with people in the community. Is there a chance, perhaps, that maybe apart from the financial support, could they be supported in any other ways, any non-financial means?
Yes, Zibby, they could. But to support someone, you need to know what the person is doing, and then you that will help you determine if you're in a position to help and how you can help the person. But without fully understanding what the person is actually up to, it'll be difficult to render any assistance.
All right. And let's move on to Punch. Varsities reduce workers' children's fees, justify tuition hike. Federal universities across the country have announced over 200% hike in registration and tuition fees for students. And this has been revealed by analysis from correspondents of the paper. Now, reports say the fee hike announcements came shortly just after the suspension of the strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities and calls by lecturers and other stakeholders as well for better funding of the tertiary education system here in Nigeria.
Okay, so very quickly, it's a mystery that this is only being done now. We're all witnesses to how inflation has dealt with us in 2022. As of last year, inflation was about close at about 21.4%. Meanwhile, the interest rate was about close about 16.36%, which means there was a negative real rate of return. Now, these universities have to pay for things. The prices of goods and services have gone up. I don't know any good or service whose price went down in 2022. I'm not aware of any. I'm not saying it hasn't happened. Now, education is key, and to be able to continue to provide the quality of education required, it requires more funding. It is now crystal clear to everyone that the government at the federal or state level is incapable of providing all the finance required. And the private sector needs to come in. But before the private sector can fully come in, you need to bring tuition rates to a realistic level. Because let's face it, we've heard of the Jackpot syndrome. We've seen thousands of Nigerians relocate in search of greener pastures, and they're relocating with Nigerian degrees, and the people in those countries are accepting them because, face it, our degrees are still good. But to maintain that standard,
Right.
we need to increase salaries and we need to increase tuition costs to be realistic. Now, luckily, there have been a couple of developments. Last year, an education bank was started, and it will provide loans to students, and they will start paying 2 years after graduation or when they get a job or when they start a business. And then, furthermore, they've said for lecturers, they will give a discount to the children. My appeal to Nigerians is let's not fight the inevitable. The fees must go up if you want your children to be armed with the knowledge and skills to proceed in life.
All right, let's go on to WhatsApp and see the messages coming through. Dami from Alausa says, Obasanjo's civilian administration is the reason we face a lot of what we face right now from today's politicians. Okay, thank you for that message. Benga says, the Orosai report, um, the National Assembly is proposing 100 new agencies for government. Nigeria is on a slide. not upwards, of course, but downwards. And James says, what Obasanjo has done by endorsing Peter Obi is normal in serious crimes. It's a clarion call to all citizens to arise and save a badly run nation. If you say he's one of those that brought us to where we are, he has also admitted that each and everyone has made a mistake, but here's a time to attempt to get things right. Honestly, through this letter, Obasanjo is vindicated should things get worse after the poor performance of the government. Nigeria is like a hospitalized victim of torture by drunk ruler. It needs a competent physician to heal the wounds. And all right, well, thank you so much, Tony, for that. And Taya says on the NMDPRA shutting down petrol stations for selling above official rates, it's coming after heavy hardships has already handicapped Nigerians. They need to do better and stop showing up late to the party and start asking the DJ to start again. Okay, let's see. Julius says, for the first time, I am disagreeing with Mr. C's opinion. Okay. This is in regards to his statements about Olusegun Obasanjo and who lacks any real record of building infrastructure, capable personnel. Okay, well, thank you, Julius, for that. Nero Cello says, when Obasanjo supported Buhari, we didn't say he always supports losers. Let's do well to read and digest Obasanjo's message line by line, word for word, and see the need to take the message and not necessarily from the messenger. Okay. Chika says, good morning, Mr. C. Zibby. Okay, I'm trying to get your message together, but we are out of time. And thank you so much for your messages and for being part of Freshly Pressed. Thank you so much, Mr. C, for coming through.
You're welcome.
That's it for Freshly Pressed. Do stay here with us. There's a lot more to come on Smooth Breakfast. Okay. The headlines. The stories. Oh, okay. Close, yeah? Okay.